Blog Talk Radio.
Evening, is it? Yes, evening. Fuck it. Oh, welcome to Desperate House Witches. I'm Raina Star, so you don't have to be. Desperate House Witches is not a GPG or even an R-rated show. So, if bad language, bodily function, dirty talk of any kind might offend you, this may not be the show for you. So, yeah, Desperate House Witches is brought to you by the amazingly wicked one, the incredible Dorothy Morrison. Check out www.wickedwitchstudios.com for all of your witching needs. And pretty soon, I hope to have something to tell you about the merry, merry month of Morrison. Dorothy will be here, of course, because she has to be, because she's my sponsor. All right, check out wickedwitchstudios.com. All right, I am so excited for tonight's guest. Tonight's guest has written, such as, my list is supposed to be here, there it is, The Glam Witch, The Complete Book of Moon Spells, Witchcraft for Daily Self-Care, Love Spells for the Modern Witch, Moon Spells for Beginners, Astrology for Witches, I'm running out of air, and the soon-to-be-released Glamcraft. Oh, my guest tonight is the amazing Michael Herkes. Hi, sweetheart.
Hello, lovely. Thank you for having me back on. You know, you're always my favorite witch to chat with.
I love. I'm so proud of you. I'm so ecstatic. You know,
Thank you.
It's been such a journey. I have had you on for each and every one of your books.
Yes.
It was.
And I think sometimes not even for a book. So a lot of fun.
I mean. Absolutely. You're one of my favorite humans ever in the world. I think you are an icon of fashion and beauty, not just fashion. I look to you for a lot of ideas on color and how to put certain things together because, honey, a bitch needs help. Yes, I do. But, you know, here's what's so funny, because I remember one of the very first things I ever said to you, and it was, after reading Glam Witch, and we had been talking about Lilith and how what you had done in Glam Witch, I was like, baby, you read me to filth, and we haven't even met yet. I mean, it was embarrassing. I just knew there was something different and awesome. You've gone on to write. I mean, I'm sorry, baby. 7 books is nothing to sneeze at. A lot of people don't get past 2. So, yeah. I mean, what an amazing, amazing journey. Again, Glamcraft is getting ready to start shipping to those who were smart enough to get in early and reserve one, because it is a limited edition book, which I'm so excited for. And you're so funny, because I remember after the first time we spoke, we had spoken again, and I was like, you need to put together a book of fashion and teaching people what to do, and you were like, coming, slow down.
It's coming.
It's coming, slow down. And my patience has been rewarded, or will be rewarded very soon. I'm just so excited to get it. But what an amazing, amazing journey. Because it's been years since you first came on the scene, right?
Yeah, you're going to love the book, by the way. But, yeah, I really kind of came into the fold in 2017 when I first started writing for Witch Way magazine. And then the first book came out in 2019, The Glam Witch. And that was my documentation of my practice up until then, being a devotee of Lilith, being a devotee of glamour, and how those two kind of merged together and created the unique path that I've walked down for so long. And so then I was offered a bunch of other book deals through this publishing company that they kind of put together the perfect book. You know, that's what they would say. It was they put together these algorithms and created these outlines for these books, and then found authors to write them. And so that was nice, because I mean, you had the outline there, and of course you can change it up, and it's all your words and stuff like that. But it was just so like lack of control. There was such limitation to what I could do. And even me being dumb, like I actually ended up pitching to them the self-care book idea and the love spell book idea. And so those were some like big regrets, because I like got stripped of so much of my creative freedom with those. And so towards the end, you know, just having these book covers that just honestly looked like trash and were not up to par with the brand that I had created. I just felt like I was not being true to myself and really not really representing myself in the best way. So I finished off with them and went back to Witch Way to do my, I'm calling this book the Glamcraft, the new book that's coming out. I'm really calling it my sophomore book. If anyone's kind of familiar with music, like I've got my fun music friends and stuff like that, and we look at some of these musicians that come out and they do their debut album. You know, my debut is the Glam Witch, and then they did a bunch of singles that were not on an album. They're just a hit, a single, a song, a this and that, and then they finally released their second album. And that's how I'm looking at this. You know, I look at those other books that I did in between those books 2 through 6. They just were like one-off singles. They weren't something that I probably would really, other than those 2 that I had the ideas for, really kind of do on my own. So I'm back to really showcasing who I am, really having full creative control. That's what really sets this project apart. It was not just me being the author. It was also the creative director. It was also me putting the photo shoots together and the art direction, me hiring the photographer and the illustrator, me, finding the location to shoot photos that are in this book, because I wanted to put together a visual story. If you're going to talk about glamour magic, which is ruled by aesthetic and a presentation that you put out there, the book itself has to be a presentation. So this particular book, I had to have 100% control with it, or it just wouldn't have been functional, in my opinion. So I loved it. There was so much hard work that was put into it, again, wearing all of those different hats. Oh, exhausting. But, and then putting it together, I realized, too, it just kind of was one of those things where when you get creative and excited and you're doing something you love, it starts to snowball. So the book became bigger. It became, I want to do it as a coffee table book. And then we had to, really look at, the cost of printing it. And so that's what kind of led to having this limited edition release, because it did have to be a more expensive book, because it's a 250-page full-color hardcover, beautiful, fabulous coffee table book. I've always had an affinity for those, and I just really saw this being that. So it's the book right now. It's only in hardcover. It's limited to 200 copies. I think we're about half sold, I'm just excited to kind of get it out there and put my stamp on glamour, even though I have as being the Glam Witch for so long. Right. It's fun having all of that, but this book really just means so much to me, and it's so exciting, because before I'm a witch, before I'm an author, I'm an artist, and this was really one of the biggest pieces of art that I put out. And so that's in a nutshell. The book is it's split into a couple of different components. So you have the glam crafting section that just kind of breaks things down between, what is glamour magic? Where did it come from? The origins of it, coming from the 1700s, being originated as a word that came from the word glamour. Glamour came out to be because it was very much connected to the magical books that people were reading at that time. We had astrology books and medieval magic books and things like that. And so really there was a small percentage of people that would like to read those. And so because of that, grammar was kind of associated with those books. So then glamour became like the magical tradition of doing the work of magic. It was considered a witch's spell. And grimoire actually also stems from the same word too, which I thought is fun and funny. But it wasn't until like the 1930s that it really turned into like Hollywood pop culture and the glitz and glamour of the silver screen and things like that to be what we know and love as today. But yeah, glamour, it was initially defined as a witch's spell. It's something that we all do. It's our initial witch power. So I go into that. I go into ways very practical. So the book too is it's got a magical heft to it and a very just basic level component to it too on just how to build confidence, how to do your hair, how to do your makeup, things like that. So we talk a little bit about cosmetics, of course, how to build a wardrobe that fits to your lifestyle, the way that you want to do things that kind of reflects your uniqueness, ways in which you can, of course, style your hair, work your body language, and then, of course, create a persona, which is the magical component to the glamour itself. And then the middle section of the book, it changes from like regular typesetting to like a script and all of these illustrations for my glamoire. So now you have spells, rituals, recipes like that to do the actual glamour magic with. So that's the magical component. And then the end of it has 6 wonderful interviews with some wonderful other witches that I know and love. And so, and just some elements that they do with their magic. So I have in there Elise Marie, who's the beauty witch. She talks about holistic beauty. We have Hunter Vane, who's an amazing, amazing witch artist who I met because he read my first book. So we started following each other, and he does wonderful drag portraiture that's gothic-y and witchy, and just it's fabulous. So he's in to talk about the magic of drag. We have Julia Helena Haddis, who's done magical cocktails. We can construct the perfect glamour potion. Lilith Dorsey, of course, the amazing Lilith Dorsey. We talk about voodoo and glamour.
Love.
And Raven Digitalis comes on to talk about goth craft and goth magic. And he was an important part, too, because I love that he really expressed himself very well in being someone that identifies as male and wearing makeup and just kind of a male beauty section. And then we have the fabulous Veronica Barlow, who's a long line of witches, Romanian witches, and she's a world-famous burlesque dancer. So she's going to talk a little bit about burlesque and the glamour of burlesque. And so then it ends with a few witchy words of wisdom, and the book's over at that point. But that's it in a nutshell.
So, Michael, I want to ask you a question because I think some people may not understand. There is a difference between a gentleman who wears makeup and someone doing drag, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Please clarify this for my listeners who may not be sure of the difference.
Well, it's something that's kind of it's hard to define too, because it can still be ambiguous. But like, men in general have really started to wake up to makeup and cosmetics in general over the last couple of years. It's interesting though that to protect the fragile masculinity, like the names are called something different. So we see ads now for men for concealer sticks and under eye creams and things like that. But it's not called that. It's called war paint, because we have to make it masculine because so terrifying for feminine stuff. I saw now that there's like a beard pen and like an eyebrow gel that's specifically targeted to men for if you wanted to hide grays or pencil in your beard a little bit more, because some of us with beards, they're splotchy. I'm the same way. So I have to, color it in. And then just like loose powder to reduce shine. So men are slowly starting to come into the fold of makeup in and of themselves. And just because you wear makeup, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily a drag queen. It doesn't mean any of those types of things. Drag is a performance. It's a performance persona. Yeah. So there is a level of magic to it. And I do talk about persona in the book itself as well. And so that's where you're creating a character, an alter ego, if you will. And you dress in that certain way. You become this role. It's an act. It can be a lifestyle. It can be a performance piece. It is whatever the individual makes it to be.
Anything that enhances you and makes you feel better about yourself, I think is so important for just people to embrace and stop worrying about, you know, we live in such a hostile world right now. I think people are so afraid of being interpreted as this thing or that thing, or, you know, being mistaken or being judged. And I really think that there needs to be pushback, and I really believe that pushback needs to come from especially cis males, that, you know, it's okay to wear what you want to wear that makes you feel good and not have to be toxic and not have to be strong and not have to be all of the stereotypical things. I think we really need to move humanness away from stereotypes and just let humans be humans and let them, you know, something as benign as having purple hair, which I did, created such an uproar. And I'm from New York, but we're talking about the late 70s, early 80s. And it's like the slightest little deviation, you know, that all of a sudden creates an uproar to a point where people are like, kill that person for being so different and so out of the box. And it's like, we really need to come back from that and like move in a completely different direction, don't we?
Yeah, and a lot of that, it just really stems from fear. It's the other individual's fear. I mean, I don't know. I try not to get even angry about it at this point anymore. I just try to laugh at it, because you really just make an ass of yourself when you're doing all of that, and you're hurting yourself, you know, at the end of the day, probably more than others, because you're not tapping into your expression and your freedom, and living a dull life of not being able to express yourself. Creativity, I think, is a powerful curse all in itself. But I don't know.
It's a beautiful thing. I think the idea of, you know, and I've you know, through my life, I've known men who've been like, can I borrow your concealer for a minute? Yes. Can I use a little bit of your mascara to bring out my eyes? Yes. But I also, you know, primarily have been with people in the industry as far as music or entertainment in one way or another, you know, and I just love that. I love people who are just, you know, happy to express. I see, you know, it's like the first time I ever saw somebody wear blue lipstick, and it was like, that's different. I'm not brave enough to do it, but it looks cool, you know. It's just embrace
exactly.
Whatever. It's no different. Yes, have fun with it. It's no different from me feeling better when I put on a red lipstick before I go into a meeting. It's the same thing. It's all stagecraft, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way of looking at it. Absolutely.
I love the idea that people can invent and reinvent themselves, because you don't have the same look this entire time that I've known you. You've changed up your hair and the things you wear and your styling.
Oh my God, let me tell you a funny story about the hair, okay?
Oh, please. Yes, I love.
Okay, so part of this book, like a lot of the, I guess the inspiration behind the visuals came from a character that was created by my favorite musician, Marina and the Diamonds. There was an album called Electra Heart, and this was a persona that she created for that album. And all of the songs were kind of like diary entries from this crazy, sad, lonely, glamorous girl's life. But very like dark, but really poppy. There's a huge dichotomy in the whole visual and sonic sound of it all. But I loved it. And she wore mostly like pastel clothes from the 60s, like vintage stuff. And I just loved all of the visuals from it. And particularly the music video for Prima Donna, which is my favorite song. So I really, when it came to doing like the photography for the book, a lot of it I've shared online so far in the last couple of weeks, but there's still a good chunk of it that hasn't been released because it's in the book. But that was really a major influence in kind of crafting the visuals for it. And so when she even did that record too, she's got this, she's naturally Greek, and she's got this long dark hair, but she dyed it blonde. She wanted blonde hair for that archetype that she was creating. And I did the same thing. And all last year I was like blonde. And it's like 2 days before the photo shoot and my last bleach, it all fries off. And she had the same situation. So during the entire marketing campaign for her album, she pretty much wore a wig the whole time that like she glued on the back of a headband and just threw that on her hair every time she was doing performances and stuff. So I thought it was hilarious, and there is a fun magic counterpart there with glamour or anything. It's like I was trying to channel that energy. I was trying to channel that character, and even the adverse parts of that can come through. So I fried off my flipping hair. We like about 2 inches in from the hairline, it all broke off.
Wow.
But luckily it really wasn't that noticeable in the photo shoot. But right after I had to cut off my hair, and I've been so sad these last couple of months as it's grown out. And it's finally grown out again. I did a little bit of bleach about a month or so ago when I started to promote the book, but like I'm done with it. Like this bleached blonde hair, it's going away next week. We're putting some brown streaks up in it, and we're going to start making it a little bit more natural. So that's where we are with the hair, but I thought it was funny, and I had to mention it because just a fun little part of the creation process of this. But you're right. I mean, I've had many looks. It's definitely evolved a lot since I first got it started, and of course it's going to change and stuff too. But you know, I coming out with myself, calling myself the Glam Witch, being called the Glam Witch, it really did turn into its own glamour of itself. And it's one that, like, it used to just be turned on for rituals or a workshop or something like this, but this is my daily life now. Like, I don't even leave the house, you know, to get groceries not in a sequin caftan and full makeup at this point. I don't go into the day job office without that either. And so, like, this glamour has become my full lifestyle at this point, which is really powerful in its own way.
It is, and you've really forged ahead against, you know, adversity, because not every place was ready to embrace your beauty and who you are. And, you know, it's so wonderful that you stuck to your guns about who you are and how you want to present yourself, and people will adjust. They will.
Yeah, they will. And, you know, luckily I'm fortunate enough to not have ever had anything like get too heated or rough. I will say I'm impressed at the fact that the majority of positive feedback I get out, like in the streets and in life, actually come from cis straight men, which I thought would not be the thing. The people that tend to hate on me the most are the gay men. So, but that's that could be its all other story. I mean, it sucks because it's, on one hand, it's, you know, they got it. It sucks. We have so much misogyny and nastiness within our own community. Everyone is afraid to be feminine. A lot of it probably comes from, you know, growing up in a place where they weren't able to be themselves or even have that allowance to be feminine and creative because they were afraid or they were hurt by their parents or family members or something along those lines. So it sucks. And it's like, you know, I can't blame you. I can't be mad at it. But at the same time, it's like, if you're not in that situation anymore, why don't you start embracing your creativity? Why does it have to be so black and white? It's kind of one of those. I can't think of the right saying for it, but it's like you're poisoning yourself at the end of the. There it is. It's cutting off your nose by your face. It's like, why are you being an asshole about it? Like, so.
You know, a lot of people don't talk about this. This is, you know, seriously, this is an important topic, and I very rarely hear gentlemen speak about, you know, the infighting in the gay community. And it's
think about it just with the witches, too. The infighting with witchcraft. Every little community group, it's riddled with its own internal haters. It's like we're going after ourselves, and it just is dumb. It really is just stupid. And I've told people before, you know, I'm like, there's gay drama and there's witch drama and then there's gay witch drama. And that's the highest on the totem.
Holy shit.
But,
you know,
but enough of that.
It's fucked up but true. Seriously.
It really is.
The rest of the world hates us. Do we have to eat our own too? Really? Can we not? Holy shit. Yeah. I mean,
Fine.
but anyway, on to more pleasant topics. But I did want to ask you something about, you know, what you had spoke about in the beginning of the show today, which was, you know, what you went through as far as being a writer. Obviously, I'm sure you had moments during the process of some of your books where it was just like, why the fuck am I doing this? What would you? Well, I mean, what would you say to other writers who are like feeling that kind of frustration of what you went through?
Power through. Here's the deal. Like I don't know how to word it, or where to begin. At the end of the day, I knew that these other books that I was doing, even though they weren't 100% like something I was like super passionate about, they were something that I'm very knowledgeable on, and there's something that I do in my practice all the time. So I have the skill set. So why don't I make the money off of it, number one, to support myself and my bills? And also, two, why don't I continue to sell books and get that in the future, in 2 years or so? Because remember, those books, too, they came out back to back to back to back to back. It was like every 2 months a new book came out.
Did.
So it was, how about, why don't I just go through it all? Because I think that in the end, it's going to look better, and it will lead to better opportunities later on. And I'm finally at that point where I'm starting to reap the rewards for all of that hard work, for all of the headaches. And I think it's just a necessary evil. It's its own rite of passage that we kind of have to go through in the creative world. But you know, at the same time too, those books, you know, they helped sell more copies of my first book. So when the Glam Witch hit, no one really knew what it was. It was coming out from a brand new indie publisher, from a brand new glamorous witch that no one knew about, Lilith, who no one really talked about. So it was just very obscure. And like, that book really has had, even now it's like really blowing up, but I remember like a year or so ago, it really like was having its huge like second run of like people just loving it and talking about it and wanting to do interviews on it and things like that. And so I think that also was a learning curve too, that like, even if you start out and your book comes out and it's not as like, oh my God, everyone's talking about it, give it some time, let it marinate, let people talk about it, let word of mouth travel, and it will get there if you believe in it and you put so much work and passion into it. But not only that, but think about why are you doing this? You know, I always wanted to be a writer. I grew up wanting to be like Fiona Horn. Rather, when everyone wanted to be like Britney Spears, I was trying to be Fiona Horn. I wanted to be a witch author. And so I put these out for myself. I put them out with the hope that at least one person in the world takes something positive from each one of these books. And if they have, I've succeeded in what I was supposed to do. You know, we as witches have to remember that, you know, as much as we use magic to help ourselves, we also have to be of service to the community. And when you start to do that and start being of service to the community, more positive things start coming in and flowing to you. So it's just constantly this cycle of life. So that's kind of what got me through it, through all of the pain and hardship. But I will never work with that publisher again. I have no desire to ever do anything with them again. So that's that. In fact, there was actually one other book that was supposed to come out with them, and they retained the rights to it, but decided not to publish it. So it's the lost book. There's a Glam Witch lost book out there, but I'm okay with it. It was just an absolutely hideous cover, and I was like, no, it's not even worth it. Just pay me out, buy me out, and have it.
You know, it's funny because I know some people would think of you as being a diva for that, but I'm like, bitch, please, and yes, thank you. You absolutely should be in charge of the messaging and what the message looks like. There is nothing wrong with staying firm.
Well, and the thing is it's like, I mean, again, I went to school for marketing, branding, and graphic design. So not only like am I a writer, but I am and also talented, but also classically trained in how to do this. So I remember there was one of the covers, and it was just so bad. And everyone I was trying to show ahead of time was just like, this is absolutely bad. And I had to have a meeting with the CEO and the director of design. And I was just like confused because if you have eyes, and if you do have eyes, you'll know which cover I'm talking about. And it's just so bad. And at one point, the snippy man, the CEO of design or whatever, he's like, well, what don't you like about it? What needs to be done? I was like, well, there's too much, like the contrast isn't working. You can't see anything on the cover because of the thinness of the stroke lines. This needs to be updated. This needs to do it. And he stopped me and he raised his hands and he was just like, I don't need you to go bit by bit on what needs to be done. I've gone to school. I know what needs to be done. And I was like, well, with all due respect, it's clear that you didn't, because if you did, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So
exactly.
It's just like, and also it's one of those things, too, where when you've been around for a little bit of time and you start to get taken advantage of in any kind of an industry, you just learn to fucking fight back and say enough is enough with this bullshit. And you start to speak your mind. Mm-hmm. And it's empowering. And I think, too, at the same time, it's like this is the energy of shit that I've talked about in my books, about finding that empowerment to speak your mind and stand up and say no, and finding that confidence. And so it's great when then real life experiences kind of come in and you're just reminded of that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to tell you, the cover, no, you're absolutely right. You need to be, people are so afraid sometimes to open their mouths, but I think the page is turning because, in industry itself, we're having a hard time finding new people to take over roles because people are not wanting to work, and I'm waiting for employers to kind of roll over and get the fact that unless you start negotiating better and giving people what they want a bit more, like the ability to pick when they're going to take vacations or pick when they can work from home or negotiating on childcare or whatever it is, the days of the employer is the be-all and end-all is kind of going away. Because people are standing together and deciding this is, the days of falling over dead at your desk are done. We're not having it. And I'm so sorry that my generation didn't fucking try to do that, because half of us are like, we're so fucking tired. But the young people coming up are like, we're not doing it, goddammit, fuck y'all. And we're like, okay. It's kind of fun. So
it's like that.
The idea that the standing up for yourself is so important, and I love that you speak on that so beautifully and so much.
Yes. I'm not afraid to do it. So
oh, shit.
It's also one of these things, too. I mean, maybe I'm like, It is something that I have to remind myself, and I have several other witch friend colleagues too, where it's, at the end of the day, I have a day job. Like Glam Witch and the books and stuff that I do, it's secondary. It's not my main life. I mean, it is. It's always my life, if that makes sense. But I mean, being the author and doing all of this stuff, I'm a person. I have other things going on in my life too, and so I don't necessarily I'm not too afraid to speak my mind and speak the truth on stuff that goes on in this community, because I mean, I have fallback plans. Like, it's not the end of it. And I feel like a bitch saying that, but it's like, I hope it's translating the way I'm meaning it to. It's kind of like, once I finally realize that, like, I have other things that are going on in the world around me, I have other jobs, I have ways that I disconnect from this community, like, I'm not afraid to talk about it anymore. In the way that I can.
And that's good. Yeah. It's healthy.
And someone's going to know. You don't know. I'm at the point, too, where, like, I've had multiple other, like, authors starting, or people that have been around, too, just, starting to be very transparent about pay. What do we get paid? How are you supposed to know if no one's ever talking about it? How do we know if we're getting fair pay or equal pay? Like, what, we got to start having these conversations. This is the way that it is. So.
Yeah, and I've only heard one other person actually be honest about what's involved with getting paid and the what an author goes through. And, sometimes folks are under the impression that because you're an author and you have more than a couple of books that you're rolling in money. Au contraire.
No.
That is certainly not
the publishing
case.
world ain't what it is today. I mean, maybe in the early 2000s and late 90s, yeah, you could get a book deal for $50,000. But now you're lucky if you get one for $2. So it's like, like, that's just how it is.
Especially with file sharing and, you know, having everything on the internet and the ability for folks to upload stuff. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for music. It's just like being a musician. If it's out there and it's recordable in some fashion, it's going to wind up somewhere that maybe the author is not going to see any kind of benefit.
Correct.
You know, and that's
another way
be
that, like, and this comes from, like, understanding, like, the music world too, and musician friends of mine who, I mean, that's it's very similar to that whole, like, the, you know, stealing music, ripping it, and all that kind of stuff. And then the artist not saying anything, but the real money is coming from touring and doing classes and doing things like that. So, like, if you can go out and see any of us, if we're hosting a class, if we're doing something, if we have classes on our websites or things like that, which I've decided I'm really going to start, like, investing in and putting some of those out there, or hosting a retreat or things like that. That's where we can actually, like, make money. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really interesting. It's really weird in the witch world with money and services. Like, even people that don't think you should charge for tarot readings or magical supplies or things like that. It's just kind of like, no, you're paying me for my time and my energy. At the end of it, that's how it is.
See, and I find that offensive, you know, because I don't work for free. That's like, well, you're really good at your job. I'm not doing it for free. Bitch gotta eat.
I mean, like, I've had it, and I'll be candid, and I'm not going to be too explicit, but, like, I've been asked to present at festivals and things, and some of them are just like, okay, you know, come here and blah, blah, blah. You still have to buy a ticket, and you still have to pay for the room and board. I'm just like, so let me get this straight. I'm coming in to sell your situation, and I'm not getting anything for it. You're profiting off of everything, but me as the one that's actually doing the work for it gets nothing. I'm not participating. Like, I'm only doing events that I get paid for at this point, because it's time, it's money. I have a day job. I have a life. I have things that I have to do. So I can't do every podcast. I can't do every thing anymore unless, you know, there's a benefit from it. And so that's just kind of where I'm at now too. And again, it's just,
love me, so
you know, this is something that's learned over time. I mean, what's that?
Saying,
I always come to you. You're fabulous.
That's right, because you love me, because I love you.
Yes, yes. And you have a good interview. But no, it's just, after you do something for a long time and you get confidence in it, you just really start being able to speak up and say, you know, enough is enough. This is what I'm able to give, and this is what I'm not. So, and I think that's just a learning curve that everyone has. And I mean, it's necessary, I think, sometimes in the beginning to do those, like, you know, say yes to everything. I was definitely in the beginning, I said yes to everything. I'll be on every podcast. I'll be at every event.
Yep.
Let me know what I need to do. Yep. What do I need to buy? Where do I need to go?
Sure.
And because you have to get exposure. You have to put yourself out there. You have to have the accolades. You have to have that body of work. And until you have it, it's just kind of, you know, I don't know. I feel like in some ways, I hate saying it. I don't know what the better way to say it would be, but it's like, what's your worth? Like, you have to prove your worth. You have to earn your stripes. That's a better way to say it. Once you've earned your stripes, then go for it. And I'm just in the I've earned my stripes era. So worship me like the goddess I am, damn it.
That's right, God damn it. No, I'm serious though. You know, I've been doing this for 11 years, and I still learn new stuff, and I still love doing it, and it's, you know, something I enjoy doing for the writers in the community and other artists. And, you know, I remember the dark days of a handful of writers when I was first coming up. It's like, to even find a book, you had to be in the right place, and it was difficult. And all we ever said we wanted was to be accepted, and all we ever said we wanted was access to information, and now we have it. And the idea that witches shit on each other like they do is really fucking annoying because I remember 40 plus years ago when we just want to be accepted. Well, bitches, we're accepted now. Enjoy. Stop shitting on other people. And I want to address something else because this is something that has continued to annoy me. And it's the idea that we're supposed to do our services for free. Now, I do not sell services because unless you are seeing my happy ass in person, I'm not giving you a motherfucking tarot reading. We can do it in person only. I don't do shit anymore because people keep getting ripped off because people have fake accounts and they're stealing from the public, and then the public's not paying attention, and it's just a mishmash of trouble. This is why I have a fucking day job.
Now Instagram has its dumb ass, stupid little. You can buy your blue badge for $14.99 a month. For $14.99 a month, and then the stipulations is, and it's like, and if you have a problem, you can talk to a real person. Bitch, how about you do your job in the beginning? Like, we wouldn't have to be doing all of this. I am seriously, and I know I'm getting a little conspiracy theory, but I really, truly believe that Instagram is the one that's behind the bots, that they are the ones that are doing all of this. And it was a test to get people to that point where, oh, my God, well, like a year from now, if we're continuously doing this and we're not helping them out, then we offer this service, everyone's going to buy it. I swear to God, I think that that's what they did. And I'm over it. I'm not buying a fucking blue badge. Fuck that. Hell no.
Well, I think I will tell you that I agree with you, but I thought it was coming from Twitter.
It could be Twitter. It could be anybody. Because now at least it does show you where the accounts are created, and they're always from someplace overseas. And I've heard of, just institutions. It looks like a doctor's office or whatever, and it's just up there, and their whole person is getting like 70 fucking fake profiles to make for the day, and they do it, and that's what they do. And then they try to scam people out of money, and then poof, it's gone. So it's unfortunate, and we really need to find a new platform and a new way to stay engaged because it's just, I'm over it. But I would rather be dead in the street than paying $14.99 a month for that stupid fucking blue badge, and I'm not doing it. So
no doubt.
I'm sick and tired of telling people what to do every time that they get a fake account. I'm so over it. So now I have a bounce back email. I don't check my DMs. I don't check my messages. So it's just the way that it is.
Well, that's interesting because, and for me, it's just like, listen, everyone has the email address for the show. If you have a question, hit me up. Do not even bother to DM me unless you know it's me. And my friends can vouch for me on Facebook, and my friends can vouch for me on Twitter, and my friends can vouch for me on Instagram and all the fucking places. Because I don't TikTok. So if you see any shit that says it's me, baby, it ain't me. I'm just saying. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Desperate House Witches, all one word at gmail.com. It's easy.
Really, the big like frustration with it was when I was on my trip in Prague in the end of February, and I'm being woken up at night to people who are trying to call me on Facebook Messenger and Instagram Messenger, and it doesn't stop. There's not like a voicemail, so it just keeps going and going and going and going, and it was just so obnoxious on top of over 50 emails or DMs about it across the board. And just like, I know you're trying to be helpful, but you guys are actually the worst at this point. And the problem is that it's mostly the same people that are reaching out that have always reached out. I don't need you to reach out. I mean, how do you not know? This is an ongoing thing. Just block and move on. I don't know what else there is to say. It's highly infuriating on every level. And I'm sick of it, and I can't be fake about it. I can't sit here and be like, oh, da 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 da. Like I don't have the energy to be fake. So just don't bother me with these fake account things. I'm not the only one that has them. I think we all, as a collective community, have done enough in our job to tell you all not to do that. At this point, if you're taking advantage of it, that's on you. That was you, and you're not, exercising smart decisions, and so I don't have any sympathy for it. So, the end.
Yeah, there's been enough discussion. Well, I agree with you in the sense that there's certainly been enough discussion about it. And research, folks, just research. Make sure you're dealing with the genuine article. Send an email to a publisher if you have a question. So
go to
you
my
know
website.
you have the right person.
All of my accounts.
Absolutely. Or go to the person's website. Fairly easy to contact authors these days. And again, if you can't get a hold of them directly, you can always reach out to whomever their publisher is. Easy peasy. So I've got to ask, while I am anxiously waiting for my copy of Glamcraft.
Yes.
By the way, my favorite cover of the year is the cover of Glamcraft.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, can you send it up for an award or something? I really want to win one of those visual awards. But I need to be nominated. But thank you. I totally love that you said that because I designed it all myself. And you did. That's what I just said. All these people have continued to call me I'm crazy, and my book idea covers were stupid. Here we are.
It is beautiful. It is pink. It is sexy. It's artful. It's so you.
It's modern. It's chic.
It's chic. It's
glam.
masculine. It's feminine. It's witchcraft. It's glamorous. It's beautiful. It is not overdone. It is really a frigging.
It's minimal for
book,
me. I'm not a minimal person, so thank you.
But it's beautiful. No, I really appreciate the aesthetic. If you haven't, folks who haven't seen the cover of Glamcraft, I encourage you to go to Michael's website and take a look at it. It's
and
really
order a copy.
Beautiful. Yes. The glamwitch.com. Go under the books section and you'll see a copy of it. It's really a beautiful table book. It is a hardcover, as previously mentioned. It is a limited edition, signed or not, if you like. Michael, how do people get a hold
all of them
of
are coming
book
signed.
Again?
All of them come
They're
signed and hand numbered.
Love.
Yeah, because it's limited edition, they all have to come to me to number. So each one of them is getting signed. You can personalize it though. There's a whole. You can personalize it however you want.
And there's 200 or 250. I can't remember.
200. I think that there's about 100 left. So they're half out.
Gotta get a copy of it because it's going to be phenomenal. Michael has some beautiful guests in the book, as he mentioned earlier. If you're interested in crafting yourself, become your own art project, or make your life your own art project. I definitely, from what I know of this book, which is not everything, because I'm still waiting for my copy too. I was one of the first to buy.
You were. I want to mention this too. So it's only available through a publisher. It's not able to be sold at stores. It's not available at Amazon. There's no third-party distribution. It's 100% to me and my publisher, queer-owned, woman-owned. It's just it's another part of that reclaiming and taking back my worth and my money. I'm not splitting that with anybody this time.
That's awesome. And more should you. I think you've paid enough dues. I think it's time for you to control this destiny. And I'm so excited about it.
Thank you.
So
and then I have my new book deal with Llewellyn.
Yes.
So that,
thank you.
Which I haven't started working on yet, and it's due soon. So I'm going to be a biz witch for the next 2 months or so. But it's really exciting. I was lucky enough to Straya Taylor asked me to write the foreword to an upcoming book of hers, and so I did that, and that was kind of my little in with Llewellyn. And so I'm really excited to do this new book with them. The topic, it's going to, of course, have glamour. It's going to be astrological glamour. So that is it's a cool topic because it really branches so far outside of the witch community too, because astrology and glamour are just so universal at this point. And so I'm really excited to see how it all goes and what working with, such a reputable big publishing company is going to be like compared to what I've worked with at this point up until now. So
I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, but again, it's also one of those things where it's like, I feel like I went out and I did all my other stuff and I proved myself, and it was enough for them to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna go with you. So
I love it.
Cool.
I love it. I'm a big fan of Llewellyn.
They've been very wonderful so far,
wonderful.
and there's lots of little projects and other things that they've asked me about and have been including me in, and so it's going to be fun next year. There's lots of fun things going on. I was going to try to do a book tour with this one, but then when we figured out that it was going to be limited edition, and it's so pricey just to print them, we have to print them as they're ordered. It's just to not, be in the hole.
So sure.
It just isn't. It's not feasible at this staying in this limited edition hardcover situation. I mean, we might decide later on to release it as like a smaller paperback. I mean, it probably won't have all of the material in it. Might not even be full color, but
right.
we might do that at some point. But I don't know when that will be or if it's going to happen. So if you're interested in this, now's the time to get it, because they're half full time.
I know. I can't wait. And I'm so glad that you're with Llewellyn now. This is so exciting for me. And it's so funny because my next question was going to be, what's next? And you just answered all of that, which is wonderful.
No, I didn't. I gave you one piece. You know me. I'm always busy and thinking in the future. So
there's more.
I have some cool stuff. One really cool thing that I would love to chat about really quick. I know we're short on time, but so in May, in a couple of weeks, I'm flying out to San Diego to do tarot readings at a VIP fashion show for this amazing designer, Jennifer Grace, who designs pretty much all of the caftans that I wear. So her stuff has been in White Lotus. She's dressed Jennifer Coolidge on White Lotus. Some of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills have worn her stuff. So I'm really excited to be in this little gang with them and be at this fashion show event. It's going to be fucking fabulous. So that's one of my major things I'm doing. I'm in a lot of festivals this summer and fall. They're all, if they're not already, there's some that I've not listed yet, but they're up on my website. So anyone that's interested in doing some classes or stuff like that, or, going to these festivals, I'll be at Hex Fest in New Orleans in August. I'm doing a Sacred Summit Circle that I think is going on next month. There was talks about possibly Llewellyn Con. There's a lot of stuff. Witch Con again next year. So and then Witches Fest in New York in the summer. Yep. So it's just, I've got a lot going on, as always. I of course have like 5 other books in my brain. I'm like brainstorming and putting proposals together for, all while having to write the next one, and we'll see how it goes from here. So.
No one can say you're lazy.
Trust, I have my lazy days. I just work really good under pressure.
No.
But it is cool really, as an Aries sun sign. Yeah. Like, we're known for starting so much shit, and then we don't ever follow through. And I followed through with 7 things, my 7 books. So it's just really cool. And I don't have any desire to stop. I have a lot of things I want to say, and I think need to be said. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I'll probably end up in my life maybe having 30 or 40 books out. So that's what it's looking like at this point.
Why not?
Why not?
I mean, seriously, and you just had a birthday too, sweetheart. Happy birthday on the air.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. I'm just,
it's cool looking back at it and thinking about everything that's gone on, everything that's led up to right now, the dramas from the witchcraft community, the personal life stuff. I'm in a really good place right now, and have some really good, cool new people surrounding me. So I'm out with the old and in with the new, and the new's looking great.
That's so wonderful, and you so deserve it, because I've watched you work your ass off for years. And I'm just, it's like watching a flower bloom, really, from a little seed to, I
love that you said that, because I use that analogy a lot, and like, I want to say this new book. I talk about blossoming into your own flower, so You haven't even read it yet,
awesome.
and here we are. You're talking about it.
Well, I've been wanting this book, and every time I've spoken with you, I have mentioned how much I have wanted this book, even before you.
Well, you're right, because it's been a long time in the making. This has been the longest book I've written, because I've started working on it in 2020 during the pandemic, and I'm like, no one wants a glamour book right now. We don't even know if we're going to live. So it got tabled for all of those other books. And it was that book deal after book deal after book deal. So I was locked into all of these deals with that company. And so as soon as I was done, I was like, nope, we're ready to do this glamour book. I'm so happy for that opportunity too, because it's so different than what it would have been had it have come out in 2020. Like it changed so dramatically much. It was going to be like 100 pages, a little pamphlet, no color, no photography. So it really took its time marinating. So I'm just so excited to share it with people. I'm excited for word to get out about it. I'm excited to hear people's reactions to it, because, and it's not even from a conceited place. It's I remember Lady Gaga said something similar. It's like when you put your heart and soul into something and you know it's good, say it's good. Mm-hmm. And I know this is good. So I just can't wait.
Well,
to sign all of them,
proud of you.
Put a little kiss mark in it and send it off to you.
I can't wait. No, seriously, this is a book I've wanted for years and years, and you know that. And the fact that it is finally almost here is so exciting to me. And while I'm not your mom,
Witches had a coffee table book out. Like, it's pretty cool from an art perspective.
It's rare. Yeah, no, it's rare. It's a rarity for sure. And the fact that it's, we need some glamour right now after the friggin' years we had under, not that the pandemic is necessarily over, but now that we're no longer at the height of it, although the height keeps changing because now there's a new fucking variant, I can't keep up anymore. But
I love that you said that
something.
too, because someone else just said to me too, they're like, we really need our glamour right now. It's really important right now. And I love that. And it's just, I love that makeup and everything is changing. And so on another personal note, I can share with people, because everyone knows me as, devotee of Lilith, but I've started to work Aphrodite into my practice. So building a new relationship with a new goddess who is also very much in the glamour beauty world. I'm excited to see where this takes me and what we can all do together. So.
Well, I am so thrilled, and I love you so much, and we are pretty much out of time. But I do want to remind folks to go to your website. Absolutely. Yes. You must
www.theglamwitch.com.
Yep, for all of the books, the events, the information, services. Michael, I'm just so excited, and I can't wait until you come back, which is going to have to be soon, because I do want to give. I need to look at the book, and I need to give the book its full due. And it's just another fucking excuse to get you back on the air.
Exactly.
I'm a whore like that. I can't help it. This one cannot help herself.
Love it.
But I love you so much, and I thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope you have every success with this, and I love you to...
Thank you. Love you so much, babe. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, have a wonderful weekend. I will see you next week. Take care.